Hi, Chrissy Green here from Creative Isle, back from a brief hiatus with a new video tutorial for you. My apologies on my absence. My studio has been incredibly busy this summer and I have not had a chance to plan out anything for you at all. Now, I'm still busy, but I just finished designing this ad for my Christmas promotions, and I thought this would be a great thing to show you guys. I know that with fall pictures, back to school, Christmas holiday specials, you're going to be designing a lot in the next couple of months. And rather than see you all run out and download the same free templates, it would be nice to show you how you could use Photoshop to do this on your own. It's not that hard. You may have to watch the video once or twice or pause me here and there, but you can do this. It's not hard. Now, most of this I did do in Adobe Illustrator. As a graphic designer, that is my design program of choice. But I know that you all already have Photoshop or a program similar, so there's no need to go and learn how to use Illustrator. You can do this in Photoshop. So this is my ad. I'll show you the image I started with. This was my image, just a teaser shot. It's not the whole set, of course, but I did, before I even built the set, I do want my clients to know there is something big coming. So I took this shot in my dining room with a little navy background there, added in Photoshop to hide the dining room, of course. And all I did over here was just place it on this canvas with the same navy color. Now I could just drop in my type and call it a day and say I'm done, but to me that looked a little too plain, and I want people to think of this as something that's just a little bit special. So straight across the bottom like this, not going to cut it. Let's get rid of my type there. So I decided to go with the swish with the gold band. And it's not that hard to do in Photoshop. First thing we're going to do is make sure that we've got our navy color selected as our color. I'm going to grab the rectangular marquee and I'm going to make a rectangle that is way bigger than I need it to be. And on a new layer, I am going to fill it with that blue. Now I'll deselect that and I'm going to switch over to the elliptical marquee tool and I'm going to drag out a shape, and I don't have to worry about where I'm placing it because I can move it around. So maybe something like that. So I'll hit the delete button and that'll just empty off those pixels, and I will deselect that. So now I've got a swoosh, and you can move it around, you can make it higher or lower, what have you. The main thing is that you leave enough room for your type to fit in, which I have, so that's great. Now to get the gold band, I just want to mirror this shape, and the easiest way to do that is to copy that layer. So now I have two. The one in front is going to stay navy, that would be the one up top, and the one behind that I'm going to switch to gold. So to do that, I'm going to go over to my gradient tool. I'm going to make sure that the linear gradient is selected, and I'm just going to add in a few bands here. And this is a little on the brass or copper color side, so I'm going to switch it to more golden tones, just randomly picking any kind of tone that I think would work in here. You'll obviously want to take a little more time than I'm doing. I'm kind of in a hurry for the sake of getting this done in time. One thing that's a really great way to cheat is if you find something on the internet that is gold or has all the right tones in it, pop it into Photoshop and play around with that. You know, color pick from it so that you get the shades that are going to look realistic. Those are terrible choices, but you get the idea. So now I want to make sure that none of this gold is going to show up outside of this area. So to do that, I'm going to press Control and click right over here, and that is going to select just those pixels. And I'm going to drag on a diagonal, and that's going to fill in with my linear gradient. Now you can't see it because it's hidden, so all I have to do is move it up a few pixels. And voila. Even with the wrong colors showing, you get the idea that it just kind of gives it that nice gilded effect look. And now in the one that I designed, You can see I had a bit of a gradient there, which I loved because I love the way it made some of the snowflakes show up. Um, Again, that was done in Illustrator. To do that in Photoshop, that's really easy. I'm going to leave it, um, let's see, yeah, so I'm going to do it on this layer here. So I'll select that there. And this time on my gradient tool, I will pick the one with the circle in it. That is the radial gradient. And I just want two colors. So the first one is going to start with your foreground color and your background color. I'm just going to switch positions on those because I want the foreground color to be on the right. And instead of black, I'm going to switch that to be just a pinch lighter than my background color because I don't want a really obvious gradient. So in the middle, I'm going to click and drag outward. And you see I've got that light effect in the middle, and it is very subtle. So now what I'm going to do is just stamp on a few snowflakes, which I've already downloaded. You can find them on the internet, um, all kinds of places. So I'll stamp them on here using just a slightly darker color. You can adjust the size of your brushes, or you may pick different patterns. I do suggest being a little more random than that. This is just to give you the idea of how they just kind of faintly show up. So after that is done, we're pretty much almost finished. The type goes on next. And the only thing I'll really say about the type is keep it neat and clean. I've gone fancy enough with my swooshy gilded border. I don't need to go too fancy on the type. I don't want to distract from the elegance of everything else. So nice simple type. Vary the sizes of your type. You can see, coming this November is bigger than the line below it. Gives a little bit of contrast in size. And never use more than two type fonts for your promotional material. So we'll throw in the type. Now the only other thing that I did do in my ad really was this adorable bokeh effect. And I'll show you really quickly how to do that. So what I want to do is create a new layer. I'm going to choose a white brush, and I'm going to choose a round hard brush. And you can decide how big you want that brush to be. The size you pick will be the size of your bokeh. And I'm going to go into the brush presets and turn the spacing way up on that. Otherwise, you get a straight line when you brush. If you turn the spacing way up, it will scatter them. And you're also going to scatter as well. So spacing will give you dots in a row. Scatter will randomize where they go. So on that first blank layer, I'm just going to pull it down. And to make it look like it's got some dimension, I am going to blur the first one. I think I went around 20, something along those lines. Actually, at this size, yeah, 22 looks pretty good. So I will say OK to that. I'll lower the opacity on it so that they're just barely visible. Create a second layer. Do the same thing. This time I'm just going to blur it maybe half as much as the first time. Let's say maybe around 11. That looks pretty good. I'll reduce the opacity on that as well. And one final one, which I will leave in perfect sharpness. Now I will select the layers of bokeh and just kind of play with the opacity so they're barely there. And that's homemade bokeh. So in a nutshell, and again, I know I went through this really quickly, and it really only covers one style. If you don't really want an ad with a swoosh and snowflakes, maybe this isn't for you, but it just shows how with a few simple steps you can take just a basic, what would have been a basic flyer and made it a little extra special, gave it a professional flair. And the more professional your marketing material looks, the more confidence you give clients to book with you. So that's all I've got for you tonight. I hope you guys